And welcome to the InfoTech podcast, where we talk to MSP leaders and focus on the intersection of business and technology. My guest today is Kevin Remde. He is from CMIT Solutions. Kevin, thanks for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So I always give my guests a chance to kind of riff on their background and their origin story. Everyone has a unique perspective, so I'll just give you the floor and explain to me, how you came to run an MSP, maybe a little bit about your history and getting into the industry, and kind of how you arrived at where you're at today.
Yeah, well, back in 1980, I graduated from the University of Minnesota with a computer science degree, a Bachelor of Arts. I'd been a music student before that, so it made a transition to the Bachelor of Arts kind of easy. But I worked initially as a software engineer. So I was a software developer, worked at a large company. A layoff of about 200 of my closest friends and myself led me to a small software company in Edina, Minnesota. And then I worked there for a number of years. Eventually, though, the company, the internet was just becoming a thing. And so I kind of stepped in and helped with managing servers and then managing the networking. One of my best moments at that company was moving from an internal Novell-based networking scheme to turning it over to TCP/IP overnight and connecting to an external dedicated dial-up connection to the internet, and
Wow.
nobody noticed, which was perfect. No, the times the desk phone doesn't ring is always a good thing. But I really enjoyed that job, and again, number of purchases of and sales of the company between companies, and eventually there was a Dutch company that didn't need me as an IT manager in North America anymore. So I went to work for Microsoft, and I was there for 14 years. Really enjoyed my role there as a senior technical evangelist. I know it's a strange title. I don't think they're using it anymore today, but back then it really meant doing presentations, doing live events, staying on top of the technology, really the cutting edge of things as related to Microsoft, and eventually Microsoft's move to the cloud was a big part of that. But in 2017, left Microsoft and was kind of wondering, okay, what's next? I really enjoyed doing small business IT back before Microsoft. So I thought, well, I could start my own IT business, and I knew some people that had done that sort of thing, and I've worked with them a little bit. But learned after meeting a area developer for CMIT Solutions that there was this thing called a franchise model. There were a couple of franchisors, I should say, in this space, and so with the help of a franchise mentor, I guess, and helping me pick, okay, which one of these would be the best fit for me. He had actually, it's interesting. He had an online evaluation for me and other people he worked with to kind of determine what would be the best sort of a franchise business for you. And for me, it was either a kickboxing studio, or it was, I don't know why, a kickboxing studio, or an IT franchise. And of the ones that are
Hilarious.
available, CMIT
Yeah.
seemed like a good fit.
That's awesome. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I mean, I've talked to a lot of MSPs, and they're usually bootstrapping off the ground. But your origin story probably has one of the most depth to it. I mean, you've seen the industry. I mean, from the '80s. I don't know what the equivalent in the car industry is. I guess back into like 1900 is the equivalent. I mean, you've seen decades of progression, and then you ended up in a franchise model. So, what attracted you to that? I guess because that I think is pretty unique, and not a whole lot of others maybe have that experience.
Yeah, I think, at the time it was, again, the decision between doing it myself or doing it with a franchise really came down to, first of all, in my pick of CMIT Solutions, they were very well respected and very well rated, especially among the franchisees. There was a survey company that does an annual survey of the franchisees of particular franchise groups, and they want one of the questions is how satisfied are you with the way the home office, the main franchise or is managing the business? And it was always very highly rated among the franchisees in terms of the support and the system they had in place. But when it comes to the reason between franchising and doing it myself, it is that system. It really has a lot to do with, okay, they've already got operations in place, they've got a proven model, they have marketing that's already there for you, and you can take advantage of it. They set up your website for you. So if you go to cmitsolutions.com/twin-cities-west, that's my location. One
Gotcha.
of about 300 locations around North America. But they provide content for that. They help with the marketing. Beyond that, we have a weekly quick tips email that goes out to my CRM, basically, any leads that I think would be interested in our business. And then it's just informational, but that's the sort of thing that I would have to build myself and take a lot of time to
Sure.
do it. Where I'm trying to grow the business, I'm trying to support my customers. In fact, when I started, I didn't have any customers, so that was the first thing to do was get customers, get out there and
Yeah.
network, and
Yeah.
and
First
uh,
things
take
first.
advantage
Sure.
of the marketing that they had. Eventually, grow it up to a good customer base, and I've got an employee working for me now. But I still have that technical background, so I can jump in when I need to.
Sure. So we were talking earlier as well, and you mentioned you've been in business for 8 years, and you're up to 400,000 in revenue, which is awesome. So it sounds like you have one employee now. So
Yep.
basically, you're the front end of your business, and then CMIT is kind of the back office. Is that a good way of putting it?
Good way of putting it. Each owner is independent in many respects. The franchise, and this is if you want to talk about some drawbacks, that some of the flexibility that you might get by doing it all yourself
Sure.
is, you have to give up some of that because you've got a brand that you need to uphold. They've got rules around that as far as how, if you want to create content, you should have it approved by the home office as far as that goes.
Sure.
But it's not unreasonable, certainly. So
Yeah.
when you sign up with CMIT, there's a 10-year franchise agreement, and you can
Okay.
sell anytime during that time. But if you needed to get out, but I mean the best options for you if you're a part of that system are hopefully there's some other CMIT Solutions owner in the area that could also expand their territory by buying you. But that's way down the road for me. I'm not looking to
Sure.
retire anytime soon.
Yeah.
Having too much fun here. But
Yeah.
another benefit of the franchise too is it is a larger system. So we are approaching 200 million in revenue as a total system.
Wow. That's great.
We did a big celebration a couple years ago when we hit 100 million. This year is our 30th anniversary, so you're going to see a lot of CMIT Solutions uh, crowing about that, the fact that we've been around for 30 years. If you got time, I can actually tell you some of the history of CMIT.
Please. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Well, CMIT right now, we like to say it's completely managed IT. But that wasn't the case back 30 years ago. 30 years ago, the CM stood for Computer Moms. And the reason for
Okay.
that is
I
there was
didn't
a
know that one.
computer. Yeah, it's kind of fun. And there's still some people that were in the system way back then. I think one of the original Computer Moms is still still running her business. But it was a computer club in Austin, Texas. And these women, they supported each other. Some of them had businesses. I may be getting some of the story wrong, but this is the way I remember it being told to me. Um, the, uh, Eventually it became a business of itself. It was purchased by a group that then decided, this is a great model for supporting small business. The managed services approach was coming, and going to be a really good way to support small businesses, the ones that don't have IT, they don't have IT staff. So this MSP model, and they eventually turned it into a franchise. And as I mentioned, there are about 300 locations around North America now.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, when I initially reached out to you, I reach out to a lot of people to get them on the podcast here, and you reached out, and that's the first thing I saw was CMIT. I'm like, they're huge, like what you said, the 300 locations. So
Well,
that's
and
a
back to that, I was going to finish that thought real quickly. So,
sure.
the benefit of this larger system and the fact that we're growing so well and growing quickly is that we use that to our advantage with regard to our relationships with our vendors. So the corporate office really does a good job of setting up those vendor relationships, getting good pricing for us, for
Got it.
example. So some
Sure.
of the margins that we can get, or some of the pricing, is extremely competitive. In the sense that if you're just a one person shop or maybe just a regional play where you
Yep.
go to the biggies like Kaseya and ConnectWise and all those, you're not going to be able to get the pricing that we get.
Yeah. So would you say it's almost akin to a peer group, perhaps, even though it's a franchise
Well,
model?
that is kind of an aspect of it. I mean, the fact that we're so many of us in like I said in North America, and we once your business is developed after a couple of years, we often many will choose to join or be invited to join a mastermind group. So these
Wow.
become like little communities within the big community. And there's some competition
Uh,
as well. I mean, we keep track of,
sure.
okay, what's the total group revenue? And, every year at our convention, I think the convention's happening in September this year, they have a big contest of the mastermind group of the year. The mastermind group I'm a part of is called Forerunners, but, so we all have team names.
Nice.
But we get together every other week online to discuss different aspects of our businesses. We get together twice a year, once at our annual convention and then once outside of that. In fact, just this last week, I was in Leesburg, Virginia, and my mastermind group was all there together. And we do what's called limelight reviews, where one of us, in a rotation, in this case, we did 2 days, so two different businesses were really on the podium, and everything was under the microscope as far as their evaluation. So aspects of service delivery, client acquisition, people management, and so on, and finances were all evaluated very strongly. And then at the end of the day, the different committees that pummeled the limelight tea with questions would then come up with a list of commends. So here's the things that we think you're doing really well in your business. Keep doing those. And then here's some things that we found that maybe there's some changes you could make, recommendations for improving your business. So it's a great way to take advantage of other owners of various maturities that are all in the same boat really. And you really learn a lot, even if you're not the limelight tea. I mean, you just come away with such a great amount of information.
Yeah. Have you been in that spot already in your group?
Yeah, already 2 times so far. I think
Okay.
I'll be coming up probably in probably a year and a half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really great. Our peer group is in the Kaseya incubator. It's called True Peer, and we call it the hot
Yeah.
seat is when that happens. And I would say that first one is really uncomfortable, like on purpose. But what were some key takeaways that I guess you have? Because you've got everyone's on their own growth path. So somebody listening today might be looking for some tidbits of wisdom, whether it's from your the CMIT piece there or just your own experience in business. What are some maybe two or three key takeaways in the last year or so that you've seen that really has helped you get to the next level?
It there's different aspects. One is an area that I have a really good accountant. I have a really good bookkeeper that helps me with things, but there's still things that I can do to firm up the way I account for things, the way I can track things, and the way I can improve based on that. Having a good handle on what your cash flow is, having a good handle on what value you're bringing or your employee is bringing as far as employees are bringing as far as their utilization. I mean, these are things that it's easy as you get started to kind of not worry about, and you think, well, as long as I'm charging more than the vendor's charging me, I should be making money, right? But that's not
Sure.
always the case. So
Yeah,
getting
I
a
bet
good
some.
handle on those
Yep.
sorts of things. Marketing is also another area where I think people don't realize all the different avenues that are available to them as far as marketing. Now, I personally don't feel that Instagram is going to be a great way to find business because I don't think that people are businesses looking for other businesses like mine. But LinkedIn certainly, and even to some extent Facebook. But as long as you have good content getting out there on your blog site, on your website, make it searchable, make it relevant, make it optimized for SEO, and now of course with AI, making sure that if somebody's using ChatGPT and they ask for what should I look for? Is there a good managed service provider or business support, business IT support, business security, any of those questions, that my website will come up, my business will come up at top of the list when they're looking in the Twin Cities area because I cover the entire West Metro here in the Twin Cities. So
Sure.
any business from Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, Corcoran, Rogers, down to Bloomington, Eden Prairie, those are all in my area.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard it say that I think consistency is the biggest thing in social. It's not even the quality, it's just consistent and putting things out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think SEO and what is it called now? GEO, generative
Or
engine
AEO,
optimization.
yeah,
Yeah, the AI
AEI.
piece is huge. Yeah, because
Mhm.
people aren't even Googling anymore. They're putting it into chat. And if you don't have tags or keywords for your local area or your market, you're going to be filtered down. So I think you
No,
guys are doing a lot of,
and good
yeah,
content that makes you relevant, and
yeah.
the large language models will know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what we're trying to do here, right? I mean, we're creating content for our own audiences and hopefully, it's good for our target market. So you kind of
Yeah.
led already into my next question. I mean, we were talking about AI a little bit, but everyone wants to know about trends these days, right? I think cybersecurity and AI are probably the two hot topics. We talked about that a little bit earlier here before we started recording. What are you seeing in your market that your customers want to know about, or that the vendors maybe are pushing? Because we get hit with so many different options, right? At least at InfoTech, we're always trying to filter out what's the most, bang for your buck, what's most relevant, worth, our clients' time. What are you seeing in your market along those lines?
Well, I think there's a crossover there, so I will talk about that overlap as far as security and AI. But
For sure.
with regard to security, we're seeing more and more attacks. And if you are running a business like mine, you have to stay on top of that. What is the latest trend? What's going on? What sorts of phishing emails are my customers getting, or anybody? And you can probably see that in your own example with your own mailbox. You've probably seen them as well. But it's what happens when someone does click on the wrong link or enter their credentials into the wrong form that the bad guys have put on the screen, or even the multi-factor authentication that's based on SMS text messaging. They enter that six-digit code that they were just
Yeah.
text. Well, that could have been the bad guys asking for that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Man in the
did
middle.
that.
You bet.
Uh, and I had a couple of customers that actually fell for that, and unfortunately to some sad results. But to be on top of that means, okay, are there tools that can help to secure better? And so there are, and actually I've mandated that there's one particular tool that our customers have to have in order to watch their cloud security, for example.
Sure.
But I mean, that really comes back to the whole reason some company would want to go with a managed service provider to help them. They don't know this, and they don't know what they don't know. What they do know is that they hear rumblings about security, and maybe they know some other business who got hacked, or maybe they know somebody else whose email was compromised, and to a bad result. So what do we do about that? Or this is another one too: the cybersecurity insurance. So your
Oh, yeah.
insurance provider, your business insurance provider, has probably asked you about, or hoping that you will buy some cybersecurity insurance just in case that time happens when someone does click on that wrong link or installs a tool that encrypts all their files and holds them for ransom, that they have to pay a certain Bitcoin value in order to get their files unencrypted. Well, if you get hit by that, if you pay that ransom and then you go to insurance company and say, okay, I need to collect on this. And if you didn't fill out that cybersecurity insurance form properly and accurately, all the different things that you said you were doing, such as maybe multi-factor authentication, but maybe you actually didn't do that. Well, do you think that insurance company is going to pay for that? And the answer, unfortunately, 40% of the time is no. They're actually going to deny
Wow.
that claim.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you gotta use a company like ours to help with that process, certainly even in the sense of the evaluation. So, send me that form. I'll help you fill it out, and let's get it accurate, and let's make sure if there's something that's real easy, some low-hanging fruit to make you more secure, we can actually help you with that. But back to the crossover with AI, the bad guys are getting really good at using AI for the sake of, if only just this one example, creating content that looks believable, right?
Sure.
One of the things that they
Sure.
used to teach you in cybersecurity awareness training, and we actually provide that kind of training as well. But they would give you tests on, okay, does this email look like it's suspicious? And one of the tells on emails was, well, the grammar's not right, or it doesn't quite feel like it's native English, whatever. But the problem is these days they're all using AI to generate perfect emails
Yeah.
that will come out
Yeah.
just great. So you can't
You
rely
can
on
just
that.
notice them off the bat. Sure.
Exactly. So that's one aspect of it, and plus the fact that they can just really help narrow down who they're targeting, and then target for unlimited agent-driven software or bot-driven attacks. And the alerting that we see coming in, dozens of alerts every day of some account that I'm responsible for protecting, with a attempt at logging in multiple times in a short amount of period from some country far away. People don't know about that, but that's what's happening all the time. And it just takes one person with a weak password and no multi-factor authentication, or at least no strong multi-factor authentication using an authenticator app of some sort, that it could get past that. So that's that's
Yeah.
that's what's happening with AI. Now, on this, the other side of it, in terms of what my customers are wanting to do with AI, absolutely. We can help with making your people more efficient. There are a lot of companies out there that are mandating their people start using AI and using it in a secured way, not a free account, Using a
Right.
free account, you're likely to, unfortunately, if you're going to do some real business work with it, and you're putting real business data in there, and that business data is confidential data, if you're not using a paid-for, secured, locked-down account, you're sending your business data out into the cloud. It becomes part of the large language model, and now everybody
Yeah.
has
Free
access
is
to it.
not free.
No, no, free means you're the product, right?
Right. Yeah. Your data. Sure.
So that's another thing that we hope to make sure that our customers and our prospective customers understand. Look, we can help you with setting up accounts to do AI. In fact, we have a really good aggregate solution if you wanted to have access to some 77 different large language models, all for one subscription. We actually have that as an option. So yeah, there's some good solutions out there, and you want to again rely upon a managed service provider to help walk you through that, help your users, give them training on how to use it, and then yeah, go from there.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I mean, how do you help a young MSP owner that's trying to communicate the value of what you just said to, their clients? Because at least in our experience, insurance is catching up, I think. Like those surveys used to be 4 questions. Do you have antivirus, firewall? Okay, you're good. Well,
Yeah.
now they're getting hit with, 4 pages worth of questions, right? So if other vendors are saying it, I think there's a little more reception to security practices, industry best practices, but it's still the human factor, I think, is always going to be the weakest link, right? So for me at least, it's always how do I communicate it in a way that connects those dots? Because usually it's a price problem or a convenience thing, right? Like they don't want to do all the steps. They maybe haven't been burned in the past. So it's our job, like you alluded to, as MSPs, is to help grease those skids. So how do you do that when owners are just bombarded these days with all kinds of stuff, and it's this is another tech meeting, they want me to spend money, whatever the situation is. How do you get through that and help provide that value?
Well, what is the cost to you if you're unable to perform your business function? I mean, what is the cost to you if you are basically stranded for days or even weeks trying to recover from an attack where your files have been all encrypted, where a system crashed that was the only copy of a particular important file that your whole company was dependent upon? What happens when even you as the owner and your laptop hard drive fails, and because they all fail eventually, do you have that information protected? Or somebody in your company installed something that looked like a free PDF reader, and now it's infected the entire network. These are the sorts of things that they hopefully understand could happen, and a simple approach would be making sure that systems are protected with a monitored, better class than just the built-in antivirus, but actually an endpoint detect and respond, or EDR approach to antivirus,
Sure.
where we get an alert saying, okay, this PDF editor tool was installed, and we've quarantined it right away, so it's not going to cause an issue, or that patching. People don't realize, and often and too often they ignore the updates that come out from Microsoft. Right? They're notified that there's an update that should be applied every second Tuesday, the Patch Tuesday of the month. Microsoft comes out with updates, or third parties also. And if they're not applied, then maybe there's a security update that was there that was specifically addressed a known vulnerability in the operating system that is now being exploited. And you have to get those patches installed, because that's as dangerous as not having a good antivirus product, not having a good firewall on your network. These are all things that we can help with. And those are all things also that again, back to the insurance, that the questionnaire is going to ask about. Do you have a monitored antivirus? Do you have a patching solution in place that's monitored? Do you have MFA, multi-factor authentication, everywhere that you can? Is all network traffic encrypted? Do you have backups of that important critical information? Like you said, that questionnaire is getting longer and longer, and it's because of things like this. And those are all the things that a company like mine, an MSP, can actually help provide.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I like the idea that you use kind of stories to bring it in, like examples. I think that really resonates with people versus going through a bunch of tech jargon with acronyms they probably don't understand.
Yeah.
Getting into the nitty gritty and saying, "Hey, I have a client Bob or whatever, don't even say their name, but yeah, he went through this whole thing. Like we're trying to help you avoid this pain, not just cost extra money or inconvenience." And I think I got to believe that most people, if they haven't been affected directly, they've heard of somebody close to them that has. So that trend is hopefully going in the right direction. Um,
Yeah.
Where do you see all this heading, Kevin? I mean, I feel like we're on this iteration train that just keeps exploding, right? Like we're hit with so many more things. I think at least InfoTech's scope of work is probably double what it was, even 3 or 4 years ago. Do you see that trend continuing, or what do you see here for 2026 as we kind of go into third quarter?
Well, in all of the ways that AI is making things more dangerous for, because the bad guys are using it, the good news is that we have those tools at our disposal as well. And so a lot of the tools that we use are introducing or have already introduced AI tools that will help in our detection of vulnerabilities, our being able to then basically find where the holes are so that we can address them. So that's an encouraging piece of it. We're able to take advantage of that same power and that same not only productivity, but certainly in regards to intelligently applying security solutions to where they're needed most. So I think that's really encouraging. And again, something that our customers hopefully and our prospective customers will also take advantage of. The fact that there is, and this could actually, again, it's on the cybersecurity insurance questionnaire, but get your people trained. I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of good training solutions out there. We do provide one as well, where you'll get the periodic links to a video that talks about a new topic. We can actually send out campaigns of test emails for you, or at least testing scenarios where if you had watched the video before, you should be able to detect what the issue is here, and if you didn't, well, maybe you need to go back and review that course again. But even just having that in place is one of the parts on the questionnaire for the insurance.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got a great way of threading the needle, right? Like, let's not be afraid of AI, let's adopt it, but let's do it in a way that's secure and doesn't just create more problems, right? And if you do that,
Exactly.
I would think it'd have to be a competitive advantage, not only for you, but for your customers too, right? If they're
Mhm.
teaching their people how to use the better tools, they're going to be more efficient and more effective.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up here, Kevin, I always try to give guests the opportunity, like, to talk to the younger viewers that are out there that are maybe a little bit behind, where you are. So, what's a good piece of advice you've got? It sounds like you're running on all cylinders. You're connecting with your customers. You're bringing to bear a full suite of solutions that are effective and kind of connect with what they need on a daily basis. What would you say is maybe your best piece of advice for someone that's maybe struggling with that or not quite in the maturity model that you guys are in?
I think that one thing that I probably didn't know when I started out, and it became apparent pretty quickly, and with good recommendations from people who had been doing it longer than I had, is communication with your customers and really maintaining that touch point and having regular technical business reviews, so they understand. Okay, here, because otherwise, if you don't, they just don't know what you're doing. They're just sending you a check every month. But what is it that you've actually done for me? Have you blocked any viruses on PCs? What's the ticket flow look like? What happened with those? Who requested the help? How was it resolved? And so on. These are things that the owner or the manager of the business wants to know, because it then proves that you're of value. And along with that, hey, Mr. Business Owner, what's your goal beyond this? And is there anything technology related that we can help you with? The things that we can help build for you, or maybe I have some ideas that could make them more efficient, or make them better as far as security goes. So these are all ways to help improve their business ultimately, because it really does come down to I'm your, you want to call it virtual CIO, or I'm your technical guy, whatever it is. That's a role that I love doing, and I love doing it for you. So if there's something I can do to help you there, that's great. But it would be, and it is kind of easy just to say, okay, well, they're fine. There's not any issues there. I don't have to meet with them regularly. No, it's actually very important to do that.
Sure. No, I love that. That's great. I mean, communication, I think, is a struggle in our industry at large. I mean, there's a lot of introverts in IT, and we're good at fixing problems, but not necessarily those soft skills, right? At least I've definitely seen that and had to work on that, in our culture at Infotech too. So,
Yeah.
Kevin, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate your time and coming on. If people want to get in touch with you, I guess specifically if they're in the Quad Cities and in that area, or the Twin Cities, what's the best way to get them involved?
Well, if you email Kremde, Kremde at CMIT Solutions, that's one way. You can go to CMITSolutions.com and then look for locations. You'll be able to find us in the Twin Cities. There's a couple of us here. My particular website, I think I mentioned earlier, CMITSolutions.com/twin-cities-west.
Awesome. And we'll, of course, add all that in the show notes so people can easily click and find you. And yeah, we appreciate you being on today. And to our audience, hopefully you got some tidbits here from Kevin. Feel free to click like and share us on social media. The more followers we get, the easier it is to produce more shows. So we'll see you all next time.
Thanks.